So all these things might not be apparent to any government agency while they are doing development. And what this makes them do is that they will be rebuilding similar services that might not have any added value to whatever problems they are building on, right? So this is one of the challenges they face, right? They are unable to discover the commonly reusable services across government, and we have a lot of them. Secondly, in government, we also have a lot of difficulty in terms of like procuring services. What this means is that as public officers, there's a financial prudence that we need to put in before we can procure any services. For example, even for GitLab, right? If you want to procure it, you have to justify it, you have to write papers for it before you can even procure it. Imagine that you multiply that scale across all the government agencies, across government. And that's a very difficult problem for anyone to actually do that. Thirdly, it's actually challenges to comply. In government, actually when you develop application, from the start of the procurement all the way to how you develop, how you actually run it, and how you monitor it, and how you maintain it is actually as a series of compliance things that you have to do. And it's very difficult, right? Imagine that you're just a dev trying to build an application, but all this compliance all at the back of your mind. It just takes out so much time and mental energy to actually think about all these things. So fourth is actually regards to moving stuff on-prem to the cloud. So I think government has a lot of on-prem systems that due to the fact that we have a lot of application that we don't want to expose it on the cloud, but slowly but surely we are moving to the cloud, right? And the way to operate all these cloud systems is very different from the way we operate on-prem. So the fourth generation is actually to help this government agency, right, to move some application to the cloud for those that we can. And how are we going to do it is actually through the Singapore government. Today, we will be talking more in terms of the base layer. If you to hear about early in the morning, I think one of them talking about platforms, right? So if you imagine about this will be the base layer that we talk about here. And in here, you can see some of the services that might sound unfamiliar to you, like Shipheads, Continuous StackOps. But today, I think my colleague will share more about Apex later on, so which is one of the government tech stack. But how do you actually translate this to a typical life cycle of the product development in government, right? Now we talk about base layer. So from the start, we have a problem discovery, right? And if you have a problem, then you find ways to discover it, right? Later on, we have the subscription development, build, and so on, right? That's later stages. And for each part of here, we have different products and services to cater to. They can reuse services in the Singapore government tech stack. So I will not be going through all these products and services. Just mind that during the discovery phase, which is what Singapore Government Developer Portal will be working on right now, is the discovery phase. And we have made progress for it, and I'll share more on that later on. So for the subsequent phases, from the subscription all the way to the monitoring, this is a workflow for our next, which I will share more. And all this, of course, will be compliance by default, so that they don't need to think about it, right, for the developers. So the first product that we had for the discovery phase is actually our Singapore Government Developer Portal. It's built with discovery in mind. The search experience is built such that it's easily discoverable via SEO on the net. We create products and services on our product side so that you can reach out to the different products. Right? Next, we also have best practices that tells you how to develop your digital. And there's things like how to do procurement in government as well. Third but not least is the community part, which is more important because this is where you can actually get access to the services across through the stack meetups that we have throughout the year. You can join them and understand more. And there are also videos on demand that we already put it up there for all the various tools and services. So this is a place where you can discover all the product information, right? Next, next product that we have is actually the documentation service. I think for those developers out there, will be familiar with the technical docs. So this is very similar to the technical docs concept, where we have a lot of integration guides for you to utilize tech services, right? We have also playbooks. Nowadays, we talk about secure development, right? DevSecOps. So we have playbooks here that talks about how to do that. And also we have policy and guidelines. For example, how to move to cloud and what sort of things that you should bear in mind when you're moving to cloud. Cloud first architecture policy. So these are some of the information we put out. Some information are public and actually access it right now, but gated by the login, purely because I think we have a tech pass that you will gate this, so that it's only for officers and government partners to access it. But I think the main aim is to show information as possible to the public on how actually we are developing all these applications. Yep. Yes, I think we have done the first two phases on discovery. And as I mentioned just now, we are going to on the different phases, from the subscription all the way to the monitoring. And that's a very big work that we are working on. So the concept that we have for Developer Console is actually a one-stop place for them to subscribe all the services they need. Secondly, no longer they need to go to different services to procure it, right? This is just a place for them to procure whatever they need in the SG tech stack. It will be one consolidated billing. Thirdly, it will be a place where they can get all the supports needed. For example, some of our products and services are intertwined with each other. For example, if you were to use something like Container Stack, it is a container runtime application, but it actually uses our ship product. And it actually, sometimes you might face issues that is cross products. So this is a place where you get help from. So, yeah, finally, but not least, is actually for us to get this faster, to help the agency to get this faster to market, right? So I show some of the mocks that we have here in Developer Console. So you can actually subscribe. These are just mocks only. This is what we have for mocks only. That we can subscribe in a single account where you can manage all the tools and services. And then we also have compliant-ready templates, right, for the developers to actually use it. Okay, sorry, I'm going to move a bit faster. So our main aim is actually to help the government agency and partners to build safer digital applications easily and quickly using the Singapore government tech, right? Pass my time now to Zen to talk about API management in the whole government.
Thanks, Yong. So a very good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zen, and I'm actually the product manager for Apex, which stands for API Exchange. So I'm really glad and excited to be here, to be given a chance to share about this product to the whole of you. And I'm only given 10 minutes, so I'll try to be as brief as I can, but cover enough information. But I sincerely hope that we can continue the conversations after this. Yep. So a little bit about myself. I actually was previously an engineering manager from Verbo Expedia. I joined GovTech about 2 years ago and as the product manager for Apex, and I helped to actually push the Apex to the cloud. As Apex product manager, I have actually 3 priorities to really help our agencies to deploy their APIs in a cheaper, faster, and easier manner, to drive reuse and discovery and reuse across the whole of government to allow our consumers to then stitch together API products, be able to move up the line of innovation and ship products to market faster. And of course, while doing the first two, how can we gather enough information about the API usage and implementation that we can then use to drive the next level of best practices and the standards or standardization. Right, so within the government, the API is actually quite a crucial component or crucial tool, especially in terms of how do we provide a more personalized or citizen 360 experience. How do we improve admin efficiency or make a more accurate and timely decision, especially in times of crisis? How do we reduce or optimize our government resources and reduce fraud or at least detect anomalies? And at the same time, how do we actually protect our data and enhance privacy? Then last but not least, we are also really big into the application ecosystem and promoting innovation with the industry. Right. So we actually did a state of API survey in the whole of government, just a couple of questions. We actually reference some of the state of API surveys done by Postman, Smart Bear, RPG, and all that. And so I think this question was from Smart Bear. So basically, just like the organizations out there, we do leverage APIs for a lot of business goals and outcomes, interoperability, interconnectivity with other agencies, shortening time to market, reduce time and cost, improving our products and services by offering API integrations. And last but not least, we are seeing actually a lot of trends towards collaboration, building partner APIs with the industry. So I'll give an example in a case of tax collection, right? Because now it's the filing season, right? So I'm sure you all have heard of Inland Revenue Authority of Singapore, or IRAS. So IRAS actually, requires all business owners in Singapore to submit their employees' payroll information on a yearly basis as part of their regulatory obligations. So as business owners, such information already exists in the payroll or accounting software that they use on a day-to-day basis. And but before the API programs, the business owner do have to navigate a way to submit this information to IRAS, right? So that actually creates a lot of friction. And so with IRAS, they produce a few APIs, they partner with the industries. And what happens is that they create a kind of a win-win relationship. So for business owner, it's user-friendly. It provides a very seamless experience for them to submit their tax information just directly from the software. And for IRAS, they receive more timely and accurate submission with reduced overheads. There isn't anybody that kind of reply and say that, hey, these numbers is supposed to be string, it's supposed to be or it doesn't match their regex or whatever. So yeah, overall, I think for IRAS, their overall KPIs improves. And as for the software and accounting firms, right, it's a kind of like an additional value add that they could market to the clients or potential clients, right? So while APIs offer a lot of benefits to our agencies, managing and securing them to them is actually quite costly. And especially on top of that, they still have to drive adoption, right? For example, they need to have technical expertise. They need to allocate resources, costs, and all that. And especially with regards to procurement, in government, the procurement process can take sometimes from 3 months to 6 months in a best case scenario. And thereafter, they need to configure to deploy it to comply to security policies, and also yearly they need to perform the vulnerability assessment and pen testing. So this time and money could actually have been spent to allow them to focus on their products and services that matters, their point of differentiation, their core business value. And especially if some agencies only have a few API products, it becomes very hard for them to justify the cost to run an API management solution. And so hence, that's where we come in. So that's why we built the Apex into the SG Tech Stack, which kind of like offer a solution for agencies to embark on their API programs, and they don't have to actually incur the overheads, and they can just focus on designing the best API products that delight customers and bring about business value. Right. So in Apex, our mission as a central function is actually to enable modern connectivity demands and to drive digital transformation by enabling APIs, connecting apps, services, and data. So we do have, I think, 3 stakeholders here. You can see in the diagram: developers, a place for them a centralized location for them to discover and access well-documented APIs. For product teams, an easy and out-of-the-box solution for them to embark on API programs. And for agency as a whole, being able to stitch together, break apart API products to improve their own products and services. And actually for us is having that visibility across which APIs are popular, which APIs should we focus our resources and money on, right? So I think most of y'all should be very familiar with this diagram. And really our goals as Apex is to reduce the overheads. And we do have actually a comprehensive solution. I won't go through all of them in the interest of time. But really, we just want our agency to kind of focus on improving the life of our businesses and citizens, and to kind of drive economic growth. And so our product also is backed by a big, okay, I won't say big, at least there's a API platform engineering team that is very focused on the various aspects of the API, so that our agencies who might just be software engineers, right, could really focus on building the best API products. Right, so this is another problem that we are facing. It's just that the nature of our government is that we also have some legacy baggage, right? So there are about 130-ish agencies in the SG government. So before it come about, every agencies are at different stage of maturity in terms of API journey. And so they could already be a product like a MuleSoft, Axway, RPG. Or in recent times when we do the solutions to the cloud, AWS, Azure, and even open source product Kong. And so what we are facing in the whole of government is that there is just a growing number of API gateways, portals, and whatnot with really no central location to kind of discover and reuse them, right? And at some point in time, we also kind of have this thing called the internet separation. And so what happens is that there is really a need for the APIs to be able to reach to be able to access by a consumer in the internet zone, and that connectivity must bridge to the intranet zone when there's no internet connectivity. So the cost and complexity for such a cross-zone connectivity is actually quite high. And overall, with that many API gateways and different API portals, different API solutions, there isn't really a way for us to look into which API products are popular and how should we fine-tune our resources to focus on the one that matters, right? So I think in the next bound, we are doing a lot of things actually, governance, standardizations, and whatnot. But one of the things that we are looking at in the near term is really how do we then centralize discovery and consumption in a single place? How do we support API gateways from different vendors? AWS being the most popular one, AWS, Azure, and even other big brands like RPG or even Kong and whatnot. Right. So basically, what we want to do is actually then to provide a way to unify all the API products, federate all the API products from these different API gateways, present it in a centralized, unified catalog. API gateways, some of them, they might not have the user that's mapped to the credentials that is configured in the gateway, and so we want to kind of offer that user management and API subscription, and so that the various agencies just manage the gateway and the runtime itself. And of course, the gateway, the data plane of the runtime, basically does the traffic proxying, handling that request, managing the security, whether it's a key auth, whether it's a OAuth, and yeah, the API lifecycle as well. So if they are very capable of tech savvy enough or have the technical resources to be able to manage all that, we want to kind of let them do it. And but of course, there are also agencies who are pretty much like, I don't know anything, please help me. And so that's where the Apex Cloud, the centralized solution, comes in and kind of support them. Yeah, with that, actually, I come to the end of my presentation. Happy to take in any questions on Dev Portal or API management, Apex Cloud, or API Marketplace.
Yeah, great talk. Wondering, do you have any agencies that are using Kafka or these types of event-driven platforms, and are they part of the scope of the work that you're trying to support?
Thanks. Great question, actually. So the question is whether we have any agencies that are using any event-driven architecture such as Kafka, and are we supporting API styles that are event-driven based? Yes, we do have agencies. So there are agencies who are using event-driven within the agencies. There are a few agencies that are starting to offer events outside of their agency, which is, I would say we are a little bit slow on that, because in government, data sharing is still quite a taboo thing, right? Data captured by an agency is usually protected by an act, by legislation and all that. But we are trying to kind of push that boundary and offer events-driven style of data sharing across different agencies. So that's it, event-driven architecture used within an agency, I see that it's quite popular. Just that cross-agency, not so. And whether are we doing anything APIs from events? Actually, we are. We do have our team. Or actually, there are two other products that I manage under my portfolio, and that is one is Apex, and the other is called ADEX, right? Which stands for Async Data Exchange. And so they are really big on. So they are powered by Solus, and they are quite big on MQ and AMQP and all these event-driven style of APIs. And what we are trying to do with the API marketplace also to federate events from such products. Yeah. Great question, by the way. Thanks. Yeah, sure. So this is still open, and we are hoping to prove its value at some point. So it's pretty kind of our immediate priority, right, which is to drive discovery and reuse. And as I said, we articulate our value as a platform product. And in order to do so, is that we want to make the API products that are already out there to be discoverable. And if we can make it discoverable, at least somebody can find them, reuse them. And we currently, with just Apex, we know these are the API products that are managed and maintained by us, right? But then the API products from that are hosted on other API gateways, then it's not that straightforward, right? Somebody needs to either search for it, knock on their doors, send an email in order to discover them. What we're trying to do is to be able to bring in all these API products out there and make it discoverable. Yeah. I think we are running out of time. Yeah. Happy to chat up. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.